Should you back Brink? Well, this isn't a game that I'm going to be backing, but that doesn't mean that it isn't the right game for you. I'm going to tell you exactly why this is a game I'm not backing, but before I do, hi there, my name is Sam, this is Should You Back It, and I'm here to help you crowdfund with confidence. Brink is a worker placement, trading, exploration, and hidden voting game that is set in the world of Moonrakers, which is Ivy Studios' first game, and they're the company who is making Brink as well. In the game, you'll have access to 3 starships, which all have different placement rules and potential. You can upgrade them, augment them, you can recruit operatives to give yourself permanent special abilities, and when you dive into the gameplay of Brink, there is a lot you can do, and if you're someone who loves games that give you a spread of gameplay possibilities, I think this is a game you should take a look at. By the way, you can do that by checking out the video description. There's a link to the campaign down there. During your turn, you'll place one of your ships, which activate up to 3 hexes that it touches based on which ship it is. You'll then gather resources that correspond to the color of the hexes that you've activated. It seems that these resources are what you use to purchase upgrades and abilities and also to vote. You see, once all players have placed their ships, there's a council vote where players vote for which faction color they want to score for. Obviously, you're probably going to vote for the colors that you're mostly touching. But you'll add cubes, which are the resources that I believe you've just collected, to your voting tray. All players reveal them simultaneously and then you score. After 3 rounds, the game is over and the player with the most points wins. Now, obviously, there's a lot more to the gameplay than what I've just described. That was an incredibly butchered and abridged version of it. You see, this channel isn't about the nitty-gritty gameplay details, so if you want to get a better understanding of how the game plays, you can check out the Ivy Studios' official gameplay video, which is linked in the video description or at the top right of the screen. Let's now do a risk assessment. You see, whenever we back something on Kickstarter or any crowdfunding platform for that matter, it's always important to do some research on the company, to see how their past projects went, to see how they handled everything, just to get a sense of what our experience could be as one of their backers. Now, this is Ivy Studios' 10th crowdfunding campaign. 2 of their past campaigns are currently in production, and 2 of them are in fulfillment with games on ships as I record this. Now, I get that a few of these campaigns are for expansions, but given the landscape of crowdfunding these past few years, it always makes me a little more apprehensive when I see that a company has half or almost half of their historic campaigns not fulfilled, even though 2 of them are on boats. They're putting out monthly updates on each of these campaigns, so there are still lines of open communication. I've looked through the comments on all of their past campaigns and there was nothing that I saw that raised any really concerning flags. This clearly isn't Ivy Studios' first rodeo, so I believe that you will get your game, but the open campaigns mean I've got to give this an amber rating when it comes to a risk assessment. So that must be why it's a game that I'm not backing, right? Well, no. You see, Ivy Studios are one of those companies that anytime I see one of their games, I am immediately drawn in. They do a fantastic job at marketing their titles, the quality of their components is superb, and they do a great job at making the physical experience of their games consistent. From the packaging to the art, an Ivy Studios game is, for lack of a better term, and I hate using this term, it's a vibe. But there are 2 things that hold me back from backing. One is price, which I'll come to in a second, and the other is its main selling point, which is its link to the Moonrakers universe. I've not played Moonrakers. It's on my to-buy list because I think I really would enjoy it. I almost picked it up at UK Games Expo 2 years ago when Ivy Studios were there. I just didn't have room to bring it back, but it was genuinely tempted. I think it was whenever they were fulfilling the Titan box maybe at the time. But aside from that, whenever you get a game that is billed as being in the Moonrakers universe from a zoomed out perspective, it's easy to see how some of us could wonder whether we should have played Moonrakers first before jumping into this. Will it make sense, or will elements of the game be lost on us? Equally, it's hard to know how much of the weight of what makes this game attractive is the fact that it draws upon the lure of the Moonrakers universe. If it wasn't the same theme, would this worker placement negotiation game be as compelling? I don't know. The second big thing for me, as I've said, is price. There's a version of the game where you can get it for $79 with simplified components, but when I add on 20% VAT, $15 shipping, it's a $110 game, which is just more than I can afford right now, as more and more I find myself drawn instead to games on crowdfunding that sit in and around the £30 to £40 mark. I'm not saying that Ivy Studios shouldn't be charging that amount for it. I think, as I've said, from what I've seen of their games in the past, when I've seen them at conventions and expos, the games are stunning. The component quality is fantastic. It's just outside of my price range. I think if you are a fan of the Moonraker series, then this is a game that should be on your radar, although I think it probably is already. I think IV Studios will craft a beautiful game here, but it's just one of those instances where the new iteration just makes me want to go back to the original. As always though, this is just my recommendation, but hopefully you feel a bit more informed. If you have found it helpful, I'd love if you could hit the subscribe button. I'm a small channel trying to cover the games I think you're interested in, and your support really does help.